Okay, now that we have the block sawed out, we're going to begin squaring the block up. That would be the next order of operation, or the next step in making the complete project. We're going to make this particular project, we're going to make it 1¼ inch by 1¼ inch by 1¼ inch square. That's going to be the end result. When we first get started, we're going to go ahead and machine these rough sawed cuts there and there to get them at least to a reasonableness, because in their present state they are of no value, and the first one we'll eliminate by cutting one of these two surfaces first. The tooling that'll be necessary in order to complete the job, we'll have to choose a fly cutter. We have two styles. We have this style here with the built-in collet, and we have this style here where we have to put it into a collet. When we put it into a collet, we don't want to push it as far down as it'll go, because what will happen is we may wind up biting on that radius in some fashion. So we want the smooth part of the collet to intersect with the smooth shank of the fly cutter and go in something like that. We'll also need a square in order to set our block in and to check squareness thereafter to make sure that the block is coming out square. We'll also have a need for a parallel after we get done with the squareness in order to set the block on to bring the block down to size. We have a pencil and paper so we can do our math as we go along. I encourage all the students to take and do their math as they go, so I can walk up to them at any time and say, how much more do you have to come off? And they can go to a spot on a piece of paper and say, this is how much more I have to go in order to achieve that particular dimension. Okay? We can also indicate to the students to be mindful of their tolerance. This is a 3-place decimal, 1, 2, 3, behind the decimal point. And if we come down here and look, the 3-place decimal is plus or minus 10 thousandths. I'm going to zoom in on the print so we can just get a little better. Okay. On the print here, what we have a perpendicular within 10 thousandths of an inch as far as what we want on the special notes. We have a plus or minus 10 thousandths on the dimensions, the 3-place decimal. 3-place decimal back is what we're trying to achieve, and we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing as we get started, we've selected the appropriate collet to go around our fly cutter and hold it in place. We've wiped it off with our hand to make sure there's no debris on it of any sort. We've taken and went in there and sort of pushed our finger around on the inside to make it sure that on the taper area, which it'll draw up on, that there's no debris in there. We can put our collet in first. Again, the slot that we have here is not going to come into any play right now because there's no pin for it to go into. So we can push this up in whatever place we want. I'll put it in there, spin it by hand on the drawbar to get it good and snug. Get our combination wrench and hammer, put it up on top of our drawbar. We're going to snug it up a little bit by hand, and then we're going to push our brake, pull it tight, let go of our brake, push our brake, pull it tighter. Okay? Now that's good and tight in there. Okay? I usually take and like to spin this around over to here so I can see what I'm doing when I come and start to begin the cutting. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you out here what we're going to do in there. I run this across the top, feeling if I hear a click like if there's been a burr or somebody's dropped it on the floor. This seems to be in good shape. Okay? We're going to take one of our surfaces that came from the manufacturer, and we're going to put that up against the solid jaw, that's back here, and we're going to take the movable jaw and bring it up here to this location. In order to orientate this in a square fashion, there are several ways that can be done. This is the way we wish our students to do it because it gives them some experience on how to use a solid square. There's a couple of different methods. One is to put your thumb down here and bring the block up to there and hold it thusly, and then to bring the open jaw closed. Another method that I've seen students do, and that's to hold it against here, okay, like so. The trouble is trying to straddle this slot is very difficult. A person could try to do it like this, across here like so, and close the vise this way, okay? I find it to be, those two methods to be rather cumbersome, and I like to just put my thumb on it down here and go like that and close the vise. That's what we're going to do in there. So I move it up to here. I be mindful of this cutter as far as the sharp edge of it. Crank this out of the way. When you first come up to a machine like this, especially one with soft jaws, I usually like to take and run the file across the jaws this way to see if there's any burrs or anything that's been stuck in there. Sometimes people that run the machine don't clean it out good before they clamp something, and they smash chips into the soft jaws, and that in turn transfers into marks on your part. Okay, the jaws are all nice and clean. We're going to put our solid square in like so. We're going to put our thumb down on it. We're going to bring that up there, crank closed on our vise. Now, I'm going to snug it up good and tight. Now, the idea is to be up above the jaws so we don't cut the jaws, but not by a whole lot. We're up about, I want to say around 1/4 inch or so. We could take and bring that down a little if we wanted to. Open it up, bring it down just a little bit, okay? Snug that up. Now, if we wanted to check ourselves, we could slide our square across this surface here, like this, against the side of our block to see how it looks. If it looks good, and it does, we're going to go ahead and call that good and take a cut across the part. I'm spinning this around to get it where I want it. I'm going to bring the quill down a little bit because I like to have it just a little down. That way if something goes bad and south, it's got a little bit of give to go up if it absolutely has to go someplace. Okay, bring this on across until we get just over the work. I'm going to go ahead and crank up on the knee. That's the whole area here. Turn the machine on. See it scratch the part, come across. I'm going to crank it up about, say, about 10 thousandths. Go across the part. Shut our machine off, hit our brake. Now, our cutter is right where the work is. If we were to bring this across just like this, what we're going to get as a result of doing that is we're going to come up with a scratch across our work right there. It's about maybe 2 or 3 thousandths deep, okay? That is not what we'd like to have. So I'm going to take another dust cut off of there. Put our square back in, set that back in, snug it up, good and tight, okay? Come up to it. This time we're going to only take about maybe 5 thousandths off the work. Come up to where we almost touch, turn the machine on, come up till we scratch, take about 5, go on across the work nice and slow. Shut our machine off, hit the brake. This time the cutter's off to the side. If it wasn't, we would move it there, come across, like so. Open our vise. Every time we take the block out of our vise, we have to deburr. So we go across like so, go across like so, go across like so. Okay? I run it across the top just to make sure there's nothing sticking up there. Now we're going to turn it over and we're going to cut that other rough saw cut. We go in there with our brush. We make sure our vise is cleaned out nice and clean. Always be mindful that you don't run your finger into that fly cutter or hand. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to do this method and take a cut off of this side. Push this in till it goes. Push it down tight. Turn our cutter over here because I like to see what I'm doing. Crank our table down. Come up till we're close. Turn on the machine. Wait till we come up and touch. Bring it off. I'm going to bring it up about 10. Come on across nice and slow. Okay, it looks like we're not having 100% cleanup, so I'm going to come up back across. Bring it down about another, say, 8 to 10. Looks good. Shut our machine off, hit the brake, bring it out. Open up our vise. Okay. Deburr it. Now, we didn't get 100% cleanup, but the surface is plenty good enough that if we have to use it for clamping up against, those little scars are not going to harm anything. Okay, we're going to go ahead and attempt to make our first two-side square. This particular jaw is perpendicular to the machine. So where it's sitting right now it's perfectly perpendicular to the machine within 1/1000th or two. Okay, we're going to put our square back up, put our block back in. We've already cleaned out the vise. Close the vise up. We're sticking above our jaw, good and snug. Spin our cutter around where we can see where we're at. Bring it on across. We're sticking up about 1/8 of an inch. We're going to come up some. Now we're up about 20 thousandths, give or take. Come up till we start to scratch. Okay, come off our work. Come up about 3 or 4. This cut here is just to clean up that surface and to make it perpendicular to the surface that's against the solid jaw. Okay, full cut all the way across. Shut the machine off, hit the brake, bring it back out. Take it out. Deburr the part. Part's all nice and deburred on those two sides. Okay. I'm pointing the camera now up at the ceiling because if you go up against a light or a white surface, it makes it easier to see. There are the two sides right there that we just machined, that side and this side. Okay, we're going to take our solid square and put it like this. We're going to run it up and we're going to look to see if we see any daylight coming out in reference to under this blade up here on the top. So that looks like it's really nice and square to our combination, our solid square here. So we're pretty good. Okay. Now that we have two sides square, I took my blue Sharpie and I put two lines on there to indicate these two surfaces are perpendicular and are not to be machined anymore. I use a blue marker. The machine technician that helps me with the class, he uses a red marker. The TAs, the teacher's assistants that help me with the class, which are students that have already been through my class and have scored some of the highest grades, they're allowed to come back as teacher's assistants. They use a green marker, Sharpie, and all the students use a black. So that way I can take and know when I look at the block, who's determined that that block is perpendicular. Okay? Now, that said, we're going to put one surface against the back jaw, which would be this one here. Okay? And then we're going to take the other surface that we machined that's perpendicular, and it's going to go to the other side. So we put our square back in. We have the one surface there that we're going to put in like so, and the other surface there is going to go against our solid square. We're going to stick it up just above the vise, clamp it in, slide the square, double check, it looks good, good and snug. We're going to turn our spindle around without getting our hand down there where that cutter is, it's sharp. Bring this around, bring it up till we get close, turn our machine on, bring it up till it scratches. Okay, going to bring up about another 3. Nice and slow across there. Okay, shut our machine off, hit our brake. As you see, we stopped where if we drag it across now, it'll scratch our work. This could be a finished cut, so it does make a difference. We turn that out of the way. We bring this on across. We're going to take and pull our block out. Okay. We're going to deburr our block. Okay? Now, we're going to check it for squareness. These are the two sides that we originally did for squareness. As you can see, the blue mark is there. We went ahead and machined this side here to be perpendicular to these two. So we're going to take and throw our combination square on there, hold it up, take a look. Looks good. Now we're going to check it to this side, throw it up, take a look. Looks good. Okay, that's a good part. Now we're going to go ahead and take our Sharpie, since we got this part looking the way we want, and we're going to go ahead and put our line there and there, put our line there and there. Where it looks like this, that means those sides are done and not to be cut on anymore. I want to put the print back up here to remember the dimension we're going for is 1 inch 250 by 1 inch 250 by 1 inch 250. Okay? That said, we take our calipers, we turn them on, we clean out our jaws, make sure they're good and clean, bring it down to 0 to make sure it's 0. If it's not, re-zero it. These look pretty good, so we're ready to measure. We come over here, we put our calipers in. I'm going to squeeze between here and here to get our calipers. We don't use our calipers down on just the edges like this. Like that. We don't use our calipers just at that edge. That's bad juju. That's going to give you false readings. You bring your calipers in to where you have the majority of the jaw crossed. These calipers are measuring 1 inch 494 is what it's measuring. So we're going to write that down on a piece of paper. We come over here and down to our print where we're going to keep our scratch paper. Okay, our measurement was 1 inch 494 thousandths. We're trying to go to 1 inch 250 thousandths. You do the math on this, you come up with 244 thousandths to take off. Our machine is graduated in thousand increments. We don't want to take any more to pass than 50 thousandths of the pass. The whole idea of our shop class is to learn how to run the machine. So we're going to take this down in 50,000 increments till we get down to a finished dimension of 1 inch 250. We're going to take, and we're right at that where we left off. We're going to loosen our collar, spin our thimble around, put it on 0. We're going to crank it up. $10, $20, $30, $40, $50. Okay? I always like to bring the handle around here so it keeps the weight on this side. Come back up here. Cross. I'm going to raise it up 50 more thousandths, which means we've taken 150 of our 244 to come off. I'm going to bring this back around to 0. Okay? Turn on the machine. Bring this pass on across. Shut the machine off, hit the brake, come on across. We're going to take this opportunity to take a measurement and see where we're at. As you can see on the math, we have 1 inch 344 thousandths minus 1 inch 250, or 94 thousandths left to come off. We have approximately 58 thousandths to go, so I'm going to bring it up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Take that pass off. That'll leave us about 8 thousandths for our finish cut. Now we're going to bring it up that final 8,000ths. Take our part out of the vise, deburr it. Make sure we're 0 on our calibers. We have 1 inch, 252 on our calibers, 2,000ths over nominal, right there in the ballpark. Okay, we have one side left to go to bring down the size. We take and go in there, brush out our chips, make sure our vise is all nice and clean on the inside. Double check it. One side is going to go to the blue side is going to go to the back jaw. The one side, the blue side is going to go down, like so. Close up our vise. Good and tight. Spin our cutter around so we can see where we're at. Back this off. Bring it up close. Turn it on till we scratch. Come off. Take off 50. Come back across. Take off another 50. That's 100. Come back across. Take off another 50. That's 150. Check where we're at. Calipers are still on, so we can just clean it out. Make sure it's 0. Go in and check. We're at 1 inch, 356. Okay, so we can take, let's take 200. Let's take another 100 off. Was that 66 or 56? Double check myself here. Right around 57, okay? So if we take another 100 off, we'll be about 7,000ths above. So we'll take another 50. And I'm going to take another 40 just to be safe. See me jump there, that was hot chip got on my hand. Doesn't take me long to figure out they're hot. Okay, we're at 65. We have 15 more to go. Well, we're about at 59. Let's take 9 more off. Nice and slow. Okay, we're going to deburr it. Make sure our calibers are clean. Make sure they're 0. I'm going to check it a couple. It's about 52 or 53 there. It's about 53 there. It's about 52, 53 there. Block is well within tolerance and all nice and square and parallel. That block is done. It's time to start putting in the dots or the counterbores.